there seems to be such a disconnect or gap around almost like mainstream messaging of what AI is, and it's like people are kind of putting their toes in the water around like, okay, yeah, I can, use it to write my emails maybe a little bit faster, or correct my grammar, and like, look at my calendar, like kind of like surface level, high level stuff. But then you listen to I just interviewed a New York Times guy used to work at the New York Times, and he's doing this whole series on it's called The Last Invention, and he's just going right from the start to now, and like how we got to kind of where we're at right now. And they're talking about whole other levels of AI. Like what you're saying, it's like what's behind the architecture of the technology and so forth. Like most people have no idea. But like, how do we bridge that gap, I guess, so that we don't get just completely left in the dust and be like, oh yeah, I'm
Well,
automating my email.
I think first, let's try to illustrate what that gap is. So I would say 90% of people now have been playing around with AI, and like 80 something percent of Fortune 5000s have adopted AI, and blah, blah, blah. All the stats are there. But when you really drill down on that, it just means that they're using ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, and they're using it for some basic word processing functions, or polish my
Yeah,
emails, or research for this report before I run to a sales meeting. That's it. And for me, that is just one small slice of a whole spectrum of what AI can do. I heard this somewhere that like older people or normal people are see it as an executive assistant that will help them with some copywriting. The younger people or the neurodivergent are seeing it as a whole new operating system, a whole new way of thinking. So, like today, I was in a meeting with a client, and we built a whole new piece of software in an hour and launched it, and took her entire business model that was in her head that she normally charges thousands of dollars for, and turned it into an agent in an
yeah,
hour. And
wild.
or the way that you can infuse intelligence into all of your processes, into your software, into your systems, into your you could automate roughly 90% of most professional service businesses today. 90%. And people are not yet waking up to that reality. They're still seeing it as like a basic word processing, Grammarly copywriting editing tool. And it's so much more
Yeah,
than that. And the spread between what people think it can do and what it can actually do is growing exponentially. And there's a small little cluster of people out here, like 5%, 1 to 5%, that truly get it. And that group, if you talk to them, I'm in a forum with a bunch of them. We all feel completely overwhelmed and confused. And every day we wake up and we're just trying to make sense of what's going on. And so it's this
yeah.
really fascinating situation right now.
So what do you see playing out? Like, I mean, here's the $1 million question, I guess. Like, do we is it we just have to continue to have conversation and show people what's possible, then everyone starts to become naturally curious, and kind of the like you said, like that top 5%, kind of pull people through? Or are we just approaching this completely wrong? Like I don't know, maybe there's not an answer for this right now, but I mean, it just seems weird that there's such a gap like that, you know?
Yeah, some of the
And
questions
it's
that
creating stress. I think it's creating so much stress because when we don't know, right? When we're not educated on this stuff, then there's just more and more uncertainty. And then I feel like that's where a lot of the fear is just sparking at rapid rates.
yeah, and then fear, well, you can probably speak more to this, but where there's overwhelm and fear and lack of understanding, that creates stress, and then the brain and the body doesn't want to deal with stress, and so it does things. It creates biases and cognitive distortions so that you can fall asleep at night. And there's a whole bunch of weird stuff going
Yeah.
on right now with all of this sort of overwhelm. um,
Well, and in industries, Mike, I'm seeing this in the publishing world because I mean, I'm working on the second book, and the publishing world is in a huge state of fear where and I get it. Like, I understand where their fear is coming from, but at the same time, it's like they're talking about, when you upload a manuscript or whoever like, you've got to check a box that no AI was used to create this manuscript, which it feels to me as like, so it's like, so you don't use the internet. It's and this is it seems so obvious. It's such a fear response from an entire huge legacy industry.
do you want to hear a really scary thought? So part of it was like the huge opportunities. How can we get the 95, the 98% to catch up to the top 1 to 5%? Because it's just like you see a developer that's running at 10 to 50x faster than another developer that was just 20 to 30% faster doing some autocomplete, and they're just talking to agents in their pajamas and building enterprise code that's secure. And you talk to this group like, oh, we can't do it, it's not secure. I'm like, that's not what these guys are saying. And it's like, and so like the big opportunity, how do we get the 95% to come over here and experience this world of abundance? Well, scary thought is like, what happens when that happens? Like, we don't
Yeah.
need that many accountants or that many coaches or that many marketers, that many software developers. I don't know. We'll see. But there's also another thing is I don't think that there's time.
Mm,
I think the 95% will be too slow to catch up. And I say this in some of my talks. It's not like technical change of the past, where say you were a plumber who learned how to use CRMs and Google Local and Google Ads before the other guy who's using credit card swipers and carbon copy, phone calls and yellow pages. You can still exist in both of those worlds before. But I
yeah.
truly believe that, it I don't know at what point, but maybe when it's 5 or 10% of software developers have 50x themselves, the remaining 90, 95% will no longer be useful. And then we're going to be dealing with mass unemployment or job change or role change. I fear, like, I don't think you can understate the impact that this is about to have on the planet. And we're seeing it at the edges. And those of us deep in the know, like, you hear a lot of this bubble talk right now, and this is all,
Yeah.
but anybody who really knows what's going on, saying the reason that all the people with all the data and all the money are throwing their hundreds of billions of dollars into this is because they can see with clarity that this is working. This is not some sort of like, ooh, we'll build it like,
Yeah.
it's like laying fiber optic around the world through the beginning of the .com thing. Like, we knew that that was going to pay off. They knew that with certainty before they made that. And maybe there's some uh, bubbles, that financial related bubbles like stock market and overinvestment into for brief moments of time, and you'll see all sorts of crazy distortion, just like I'm sure there's all
Mhm.
sorts of problems when the printing press rolled around or when the looms arrived. But there's
Oh, yeah.
absolutely no debate here about the need for data. Like, all of these AI models are compute constrained. Every day there's a new model finding a new use case for AI. The scary thing is, like, do we need the 95% to catch up with what's actually going on? Because the 5% in the know here are just watching the news and listening to all these people, like, say, give whatever reason for why they don't want to adopt it. And we're like, this is not going to play out well for that group.
Yeah. Yeah. So what what I mean, what do we do there? I mean, it comes I'm
What do we
lost
is it
lost for words here.
Elysium? What's that movie? There's going to be like this elite ruling class, and it's going to be mass separation between the AI haves and the AI have-nots. And I'm legitimately concerned about that future. I hope that I make the cut, and that
Well,
we can
yeah.
do good for the group that doesn't. But we are rapidly spiraling towards a world where, like, professional service companies are 90% can be automated today, right now, so that you could 10x the world's accountants, 10x the world lawyers, 10x the world marketers. Does the world need all of that? Well, sure, there's going to be new jobs and new opportunities that emerge. We're going to automate the stuff below, and we can spend more time and higher value relationships and all sorts of things. But at some point, I'm a little concerned about where all these jobs are going to come from through all this disruption.
Well, I think at least for me, the part that brings a little bit of maybe mental stability or calm in the whole scenario is just we don't know. Like we're going through what we know is there's things are changing, and we're at least for our era, this is probably the biggest thing we've ever gone through, right? So, I mean, it's like anything. You can choose to look at this in complete fear and anxiety, or you can do the best you can to kind of pull your head out of the sand and educate and learn and see what's going on and do everything you can to kind of keep your humanity part. I mean, I think that is a big thing in general as we move forward. We still are humans, but from that place, then you start you potentially see where you can go or where you fit in, and that's the part I think that we don't know. Like, I don't know, is it just changing jobs, or are we just going to live differently? It could be that too. Who knows? But no one wins if you just fear the change that, because it's not a matter of the genie, like, is the genie gonna come out of the bottle? No, no, it's out, right? And it's out far more than what most people even can fathom. So,
Yeah.
I don't know. I see it like I see no downside, at least in taking the perspective of, I'm gonna strap into the roller coaster and see where it goes and try to enjoy the ride. Because
Well,
what's the other
you're
alternative?
you're an entrepreneur, and it's funny. The very first interview I did, probably about 3.5, 4 years ago, when I started this workshop series called the AI Wake Up Call. CBC Radio interviewed me, and the analogy I used, I still use today, just on the spot. I'm like, okay, she's like, sort of trying to get a vision of what this sort of future is like. And I'm like, okay, imagine we're on a train. It's a runaway train. It's going 400 kilometers an hour down a track in a tunnel. We can't turn. And in the distance, there's a bright white light. And we're accelerating exponentially towards that light. Oh, and we don't have brakes. And we don't know if that white light is a world of abundance or the end of the human species, but we don't have brakes and we can't slow down. So might as well enjoy the ride. And she's like, wow, that's a pretty scary thought.
That's when they pulled the plug on the feed, and the interview's
Exactly.
done.
Yeah, you're scaring all the seniors on our CBC channel. Um,
Yeah.
but
But, yeah, that's what it is, though,
yeah,
right? And it's yeah. I mean, I I don't see another perspective really to take otherwise, because you just spiral out of control, and it's just not fun for anyone.
there's no way to stop it, and you might as well maintain a positive mindset because I mean, entrepreneurs know that the only way that you can be an entrepreneur is when like shit collapses, you lean into the learnings and you stay positive and you make a plan and
Yeah,
you move forward. Otherwise, you wouldn't be an entrepreneur because we always have those roller coaster rides. So that's why I think entrepreneurs are also ideally positioned for this transition because through rapid change, we're doing little tests that are failing and there's ups and downs on this journey through that roller coaster towards that blinding white light. And the mental capacity of entrepreneurs and creative professionals are ideally suited for what's coming next.
yeah, for sure.